finding these people is a lot like finding a doctor. You ask other people who are already working with someone, hey, do you guys have a manager? Are you happy with your manager? What are they like? And then you reach out to that manager, agent, publicist, and say, hey, are you guys taking on new clients? And if so, and here's what you guys got to remember. Yes, these people are professional, but it's so important to make sure that you feel good working with this person. So
Mm,
technically, you're still interviewing them. And just like you wouldn't go to a doctor just because it's a doctor, you want to go to that doctor because that doctor makes you feel comfortable. You feel like that doctor's being, transparent with you.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Vana Room. We are back, and I'm really excited for this topic because we are going to be talking about how and when it is the appropriate time to find a music professional. So, for example,
Yes.
when is the right time to find a manager? When is the right time to find an attorney? How do you find these people? Do I need a publicist? How do I find these people? So, we're going to be dissecting some of that and answering some of those questions because building your team, as Monique and Rob and I have all discussed on previous episodes, these people are very, very important, are going to help you make business decisions and move your career forward in the industry. So, let's jump right in. Monique, when is the right time to find these people? I know you work with a lot of artists. You are a consultant and kind of manage an artist yourself. When is the right time? When do you advise these people to find a music professional?
Well, on a more general response is if you don't have somebody on your team and you don't know how to do it, you may want to go seek out a professional. I mean, it's pretty much that simple as far as that goes. But um, there's podcasts out there like this that can help you with certain things. But I'll break down just a few examples for different professionals. So let's start with attorney, because that's usually
Mm,
the one that everybody asks. They're like, well, do I need an attorney? Do I need an attorney?
sure.
And to our friend Davies' credit, she always says it depends. And it does. For example, as an artist, as a band, as a record label, you need to set yourself up as a business. Technically, you don't need an attorney to set yourself up as an LLC, as corporation, partnership. Those are super easy. And really, the state gives you a lot of like, okay, this is what you need to do to get registered. There
Mm,
are some other what's the word I'm looking for? There's some other steps or things that you should be doing, like creating your partnership agreement or your operating agreement. That kind of stuff you could contact an attorney for to make sure it's done correctly. But there's still going to be things you need to do in advance of contacting an attorney so they can help you with that. Like talking to your partners and determining, how much each person's going to contribute to the business financially and, capital and losses and all that kind of stuff. But
mhm.
technically, you can do that on your own. You don't need an attorney. Um, but if you are really uncomfortable and you want to make sure it's done right, then yes, find an attorney to do that for you. And for setting up the business, it does not have to be someone in the music industry. It can be someone who handles business law or transactional law, that kind of stuff.
Mm,
You may also want to seek out an attorney when you're provided an agreement from another party, particularly if that agreement was drafted by another attorney or a legal department. And to be perfectly honest, I've seen contracts that were not drafted by legal departments and they were terrible. And if you don't take time to really read, or if your reading comprehension is not up to par, then take it to an attorney. Um, a lot of contracts are pretty straightforward. But then when you start getting into stuff like distribution deals, publishing deals, if a label's trying to sign you, Then you need to concern yourself with making sure you're not giving away your rights to your music or to your image and your likeness, to your band's name, all that kind of stuff. If you don't know what to look for, you need to talk to an attorney. So
Mhm.
that I usually tell people, if you need to draft an agreement or if you're reading one that you are not familiar with, go to an attorney. And so to go ahead and jump ahead of a question that we're probably going to get, which is, well, how much is that going to cost? That depends on the attorney. Some attorneys may review a short contract for free, but if you want them to draft a response or reply on your behalf, then you're going to have to hire them. So it just depends, and I can't really give you a price on that. It could be upwards of $20 a page. It could be $100 a page. It could be 100 and something dollars an hour if it's a really long contract. So that just is going to depend.
Mhm.
Um, I would definitely say get an attorney to help you with trademarking, because even though trademarks, and I guess that's because I have some experience with them, but if you're new to trademarking, you will likely mess that up. So
Mhm.
trademarks and patents, if you guys are inventing stuff, get an attorney. I can't stress that enough.
I wouldn't even touch a patent.
Oh, I wouldn't either.
No.
I mean, I did a little bit of where I helped somebody with, like, just drafting some of the details that have to go into the patent. I don't
Mm.
like it. I'll never do it
Nah.
again.
No.
Never do it
No. I
again.
wouldn't I wouldn't touch that. It's too
Mm-mm.
complicated.
But I highly recommend you get a trademark attorney to make sure you trademark your company name, your band's name. If you're putting out products, if you guys are going to start doing something more extensive than just merch, if you're actually creating a clothing line or whatever, guitar picks, whatever you're expanding your revenue streams, get a trademark attorney. um,
Mhm.
Copyrights, really, you could do on your own. Copyright registration is not that difficult if you have an understanding of how the rights work. And we have an episode that talks about copyrights. So check that episode out. And then if you're
Mm.
still confused, then get an attorney. It's that
Yes.
simple.
Mhm.
So that's an attorney. Accountants. I recommend, if you've been buying a lot of stuff for you to operate as a record label, as a management company, as a recording artist, if you guys have been renting vehicles to go to gigs, if you've been buying outfits that you need for for your performances, and I'm pretty sure we had this conversation too. Keep your receipts, organize your information, and then go to an accountant to make sure you are getting all the necessary deductions for all that stuff that you bought. Because there's probably some things you spent money on that you don't realize that you can actually deduct as part of your taxes. But I
Mhm.
recommend making sure your band is set up as a business, first before you start trying to do all that. But I definitely get an accountant. Like I can't. I have an accountant, and my business isn't all that complicated. But sometimes I spend money on things. I'm like, I wonder if I can get a deduction for this. Let me talk to my accountant. Now I have done my own taxes, but the more complicated your business gets, the more you definitely want to make sure you have an accountant. And then when you start doing things like, okay, we have a parent company and then we have all these subsidiaries, oh please, not only get an accountant, but make sure you have a attorney involved too, to make sure you
Mhm.
have all those sub businesses set up correctly.
Mm.
Um, let's see what else. We've got accountant, we've got attorneys, managers. So
Yes.
here's what a lot of people don't know about artist management. Anybody can be a manager. There is little to no requirement on who can be an artist manager. It can be anybody. But agents, on the other hand, have to be licensed by their state at least. So, check the specifics where you are with regard to what talent agents are required to have in your particular state. How many artists are they representing? Um, What is their fee? Do they have a fee? What percentage are they trying to take from you as a new artist? How long are you in that relationship with them? Ask questions. And then see if there are clients willing to talk to you about how well things are going with this agent or this manager, right? They should be able to show you some of the things that they've done, who they're working with, that sort of thing. Um, as far as when you're going to need one is when you can't do it yourself anymore. And that's what I tell my artists. If you are capable of managing these things on your own and moving your career forward, when you can't do it anymore, and when you've taken your career as far as you can get it on your own, that's when you start seeking out managers and agents. For
Hmm.
now, a lot of you guys are capable of doing things on your own. You just got to get organized. And the reason I don't push finding a manager or an agent just yet is because at the moment there may be no need to have another hand in a cookie jar. You know what I mean? Like, you may barely be making money right now as an artist. Why bring in somebody who's going to take a percentage when there really isn't much coming in the first place? So maybe work with somebody who really believes in you and may not charge that much. um, Maybe they'll do a step up of commission where they don't get anything at first. They got to wait till they start helping you make money, then they can start taking a percentage. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
again, when you can't do something on your own, you find somebody with the expertise and the experience to help you, or you hire them to do it for you.
Hmm.
Am I forgetting anything? Oh, publicist. You mentioned publicist, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so the job of the publicist is to manage your image and your relationship with the public. So that's things like your social media, press releases to magazines and newspapers, and maybe getting you on some interviews and that sort of thing. Again, if you're capable of setting this stuff up yourself, then wait until you can't do it anymore, and then you hire somebody to help take you to the next level. One thing I will say about agents, managers, and publicists is you want somebody who has connections. That's the whole
Yes.
point.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, like, you really need to have the whole point of you turning it over to somebody else is because they have connections you don't have.
Hmm.
Um, with radio stations, TV stations, publications, media, basically, right? So it doesn't benefit you to hire somebody that is not connected or is just now trying to build their connections. I wouldn't pay him a dime. If you're still building your Rolodex of people, what am I paying you for? Like, it's not that, yes, you're putting forth effort, you're taking time to do things. Maybe you need to fly somewhere and go this, that, or the other. But at the end of the day, I need to see exactly what I'm paying for.
Hmm.
What are these efforts? Who are you getting in front of? So if you're on here and you're an aspiring manager or an aspiring agent, you need to start building your network so you can be helpful to the artists that you want to work with. Same for the
Hmm.
record labels. Record labels, if you, the label owner, don't have these connections, you need to hire somebody and give them the title of, your PR department, or, your management, whatever department you want to call it. But that person needs to have some connections that are beneficial. Otherwise, you might as well keep doing it yourself and not spend the money.
Hmm.
So, is that
Absolutely.
it?
Yeah, I think those are some of the main ones that we talk about. And obviously, when you say agent, they can branch off into sync agent and all these types of things. So the basis of all of that is basically the same. So now that we've gone over what they are and when you would need them, how do I go about finding these people?
hmm Well, again, my first answer is a general one, which is finding these people is a lot like finding a doctor. You ask other people who are already working with someone, hey, do you guys have a manager? Are you happy with your manager? What are they like? And then you reach out to that manager, agent, publicist, and say, hey, are you guys taking on new clients? And if so, and here's what you guys got to remember. Yes, these people are professional, but it's so important to make sure that you feel good working with this person. So
Mhm.
technically, you're still interviewing them. And just like you wouldn't go to a doctor just because it's a doctor, you want to go to that doctor because that doctor makes you feel comfortable. You feel like that doctor's being, transparent with you. You do the same thing with your attorney, your accountant, your manager. Meet them, see if you guys have a good rapport with each other. And if you're not comfortable, then bounce. You don't stay, and you sure as hell don't give them any money, you know?
Mhm.
And one other thing I want to say specifically about attorneys, and I don't know um, how this may work with an accountant because I've never encountered this before. But one thing I will say about attorneys, make sure they have fully disclosed that they are not working with someone that you're doing business with. In other words, like there's no conflict of interest. If you're
Mm.
signing a contract with a record label, the attorney you're using cannot be the same attorney as that record label. You need to find your own representation because there's a conflict of interest there.
Mhm.
Also, if you're in a band and you're seeking legal counsel, your legal counsel should have somebody for the band because y'all are a unit. You are one cohesive unit. But then each of you need to find your own representation because if y'all have a falling out, they can't use the band's attorney.
Mhm.
Like that person that attorney's job is to represent that artist as a collective, not
Mhm.
each of you individually. Because again, that becomes a conflict of interest, where they could potentially be looking out more for one artist than another. So
Mhm.
that's something to just be mindful of in the process. And I'm sure, moving forward with some of these other episodes, as we get different professionals on here, we can throw this question at them too towards the
Mhm.
end and just get their feedback as well. Oh, and
Mhm.
with attorneys, make sure they are licensed. Your agents, make sure they are licensed. Your accountant. Um, I don't know if there's a license for accountants, but definitely make sure it's like a legit somebody with some experience doing
So, it doesn't have to be a
accounting.
like a CPA?
It doesn't have to be a CPA.
Okay.
Um, it's just another level of certification.
Mm.
But
Okay.
a CPA is not required. There are people that do accounting for people in the entertainment industry, which is another thing I'll throw in there. Try to find somebody who's familiar with the entertainment industry, specifically music, because what a lot of people don't understand is like if you're performing around the world, if you're from one state and you're performing in another state, you may still be responsible for taxes um, in another jurisdiction or another state, rather. So, and you may not know that. So, working with an accountant can really make sure that you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, and the IRS isn't going to come knocking on your door like, hey,
Mhm.
you forgot something.
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That would not be a good day.
Never is.
No, no, it never is.
Mm-mm.
That's all really good information. I think we could, dive off into even more of who these people are, like music publishers and all these sync agencies and all this stuff. But the basics are, your artist manager, your accountant, your attorney, a publicist are kind of the main four people of your team to get started. And then as you continue to sector off and figuring out like, oh, I want to be a songwriter, find a publishing agent. Oh, I really want to get into sync, find a sync agent. Oh, I really want to go on tour, you find a tour manager. And all of these people have different qualities. And like you said, you got to interview these people. You've got to talk to them, make sure they're qualified. If they're a tour manager, what makes them qualified? Who have they managed tours for? Is this their first one? Have they only done three? Have they been doing it for 20 years? What makes them qualified, and why do you want to work with them?
And let me add this in there. I meant to say this and I had lost my train of thought, but I remember now. Um, Another good place, or two good places off the bat, are industry events. I go to a lot of music
Mm.
conferences, music law conferences. Obviously, there's music attorneys there. So, if it's something that's open to the general public or non attorneys, I recommend going and attending those events. And then another place is publications, music industry, magazines, Billboard, Variety, a Music Biz, like anywhere where there's an article talking about a particular artist, read it and then pull out the name of the person that's representing that person. What's the name of their firm? What's the name of their company? Jot down the name and the name of the company and then go research it and see if this is somebody that you may want to work with, you know?
Hmm.
So that's the thing I want to make sure is clear to everybody is not as straightforward as creatives would like it to be, because this is the part of the industry creatives don't want to be bothered with, which is why you
Hmm.
hire people like me, you know, or you just find somebody else with those connections in that background. But at the end of the day, guys, it really boils down to you doing your research. If you want it bad enough and you want it done correctly and you want to avoid a lot of the mistakes that you read about that other artists have experienced, you got to do your due diligence and really research people. Google their name. What kind of, have they been arrested? What for?
Yeah.
You know, I think, a great example is Lou Pearlman,
Mm.
the boy band manager that, everybody praised his name for, these boy bands coming out and everybody's looking at how well they're doing. But what a lot of people didn't realize, he was stealing from them, you know,
Hmm.
and running shady businesses. And so
Hmm.
I don't care what your level of fame may have been from that experience, they ended up having to take him to court.
Hmm.
Like you want to try to avoid those experiences as much as possible. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, do your due diligence.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that Lou Pearlman's a really good example. You don't want to be like that. So, yeah, this is a really good episode, really brief episode on how to go over and find these people and why they're important. And we're continuing to book these types of people on the show. We have managers, we have attorneys coming up. We're working on lots of other really exciting guests for you. So stay tuned for all of that. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and sign up to our email list on the website. We'll send you a free guide, and yeah, we look forward to reaching out and leaving comments and stuff on our episodes as well.
It's been
So
fun.
it's been fun. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.